let's go over some of the information that you'll need to know when keeping the apple snail. The apple snail comes to us from tropical waters around the world. They come in a variety of colors ranging from yellow, black, purple, brown, and everything in between. The apple snail dates back to the time where the Earth's lands were still separating, and it's because of that different variations of the apple snail have developed. Kind of like the story of Darwin's finches that evolved and developed into different species as a result of being separated and adapting to new environments. And it's important to know that because oftentimes shops don't really know what kind of snails they're selling. They all kind of look like and breed rapidly, so they get bought and sold practically everywhere. And well, to make things easier for them, they created a blanket term for the aquarium snails, the mystery snails. So if you've ever seen these snails listed at your local fish store as mystery snails, just know that they are indeed apple snails. Apple snails are compatible with a wide variety of fish in the hobby, although some of the more aggressive fish like cichlids might consider the apple snail a snack, so be sure to keep them with docile tank mates. The apple snail spends most of its time scooping up algae, and it's because of that a lot of people believe they can clean your aquarium. Now, while the apple snail can indeed get rid of some algae, it would take hundreds of snails to really make a difference. The apple snail is an omnivore, and it's a scavenger. They feed primarily on algae, so when it comes time to cleaning your glass, leave at least one wall unscrubbed. I usually leave the back wall alone. That way my apple snails have a constant food source. In addition to algae, apple snails will also scavenge the aquarium for any leftover foods left behind by your fish. For optimal health, you should feed your apple snail sinking foods. They can be any old tropical fish food. Granules and pellets work best because they sink to the bottom and they are a manageable size, but the apple snail also requires calcium in its diet. That's what the apple uses to build its shell. The apple snail is constantly growing out its shell. A lack of calcium will result in the deterioration, which in worst case scenarios can lead to your apple snail dying. To keep your snail's shell healthy and looking its best, be sure to provide your snail with plenty of calcium. I personally use Cuddle Bones. They are super cheap and they can be found at almost any pet store. They're typically used in the aviary hobby and are given to pet birds, but nonetheless work just as well in the aquarium hobby. The apple snails have both a lung and the gill organ, which uses for feeding, evading predators, and well, primarily for breeding. In the aquarium, it's almost certain that the apple snail will breed, given that you have a male and a female. And even if you don't have a male, it's important to know that the female can actually store sperm for weeks. And if your female apple snail does reproduce, she will do so by climbing up above the waterline. She'll then lay a cluster of eggs containing anywhere from a couple of hundred to 1,000 snail eggs. After about 2 weeks, the baby snails will hatch and they'll make their way down into the water, where they will begin to feed on algae. And believe me, it's a lot of snails. So if you're not prepared to house that many snails, what you can do is you can just push the cluster of eggs back into the water so that it can break apart as soon as it's laid. Or simply take the cluster out and toss it away. And just one more thing about the apple snail and its both gill and lung system. Remember, that gives the apple snail the ability to move above the water column. That means that the snail can escape your aquarium. On occasion, I have stumbled upon a water trail leading to the back of my aquarium, which led me to an apple snail escaping. So I make sure that if I do keep apple snails, I seal off any openings to the aquarium. And if your snail does get out and perish, believe me, you will be able to notice, as the apple snail produces a rancid and potent odor when it dies. When it comes to water parameters, the apple snail is quite adaptive, accepting most healthy and neutral pH levels. They should be kept in a temperature in between 72 and 85 degrees Fahrenheit and 22 to 29 degrees Celsius. The apple snail is rather small, but just like any other fish, they consume foods and produce waste. So, to keep your aquarium water healthy, it's recommended to keep only 1 snail per gallon in the aquarium, and that would come out to about 1 snail for every 3 to 4 liters.